Thank you. Good afternoon. Come on.
Yes, okay. So basically, the mandate for the NNGO steering committee is for us to be able to lead the coordination of NGOs, the affairs of NGOs, and also to advocate on behalf of our colleagues NGOs. The NNGO is not a parallel structure to SLANGO. Mm-hmm. We are supposed to work very closely and in tandem with SLANGO, and of course we are being oversight by the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development. So we were elected last week at elections conducted by SLANGO, and we were unanimously voted for. And it's not just the position of chair. We have the co-chair position, we have secretary general, we have regional coordinators, representatives, etc. And definitely we are currently putting together our first 3-month plan, which will be finalized anytime soon. In fact, even yesterday, we had a meeting with the Director of NGO Affairs at the Ministry of Planning, an introductory meeting, to meet with the new steering committee members, elected steering committee members. So we have a lot in our plan, and I'll be pleased to share them with you.
Okay, during your statement, you made mention about inclusion. So how are you going to work with them in terms of inclusion? Far too long they have left behind in terms of inclusion in positions, in governance, in politics, and even in education.
Yes, so this new committee, we were intentional and deliberate to ensure that we are very much inclusive, not just in terms of including persons with disability, but also the gender representation on the steering committee. So whilst we are voting members to the steering committee, we ensured that we had those considerations in mind, and we were able to definitely co-opt a person with disability. And one of our core mandates and core tasks, in fact, one of our most urgent tasks, is for us to review the term of reference for the steering committee. And one of the things we want to see reflect into it very clearly is the inclusion of persons with disability in the steering committee. And like you rightly mentioned, we already have a very vibrant organization led by Mr. Abubakar Bangra, which is the African Youth with Disability Network, being represented on the steering committee. So we definitely, our approach is to leave no one behind and to make sure we have an inclusive representation of NGOs in the steering committee, and for us to also be able to include all facets of or sectors of people working around the NGO.
Okay, one of your posts is that leadership is not a title, it's a position for privilege, for working together with all other people. And for far too long, I have been working with you in the youth sector, supporting young people. I remember this school at Success that you supported with school materials years back, I think 10 or 15 years back.
Sure.
So let's go into your organization itself, because I've seen that you have grown from that level to another level. Let's talk about your recent project so far.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Yvette, for that. Definitely, you were part of the startup stories of Global Youth Network in those early days. And like you rightly mentioned, in 2015, we did a donation to the IEC Russell Primary School, being supported by my friend, Dr. Adonis Aboud, and other good-hearted colleagues who donated kind-heartedly for us to be able to provide 120 sets of furniture since 2015 to the IEC Primary School in Russell. After those years, of course, we have sojourned all these years through, and we're really very grateful to God Almighty for seeing us through hard work, commitment, dedication. We've been able to reach this point. But to go to the point of asking us about our current project, we have a series of projects that are ongoing. One of which is, let me say, our biggest project is the one that is funded by the European Union through Christian Aid Ireland. It is a 2.5 years project that we're implementing in Falaba district, and NMJD is implementing the same project in Kono district. And it has several components. It has a component of building the capacity of youth CSOs in Falaba. Secondly, we have a component of vocational skills training. Thirdly, we have a component of business development training, where you will be providing startup capitals to young people operating within Falaba district. And of course, we also have the graduate internship program for youth that have graduated the past 1 year and above, for them to be placed in institutions within and around Falaba district, whether the health in health facilities, whether in schools, whether in the council, or whether in development organizations. So there's a lot we're doing at that level. We also have the BMGF funded project through AMREF Health Africa. It is around the youth-led advocacy on tobacco control. So that one is a 4-year project. We are in the 4th year now implementing that project. It's been implemented. It's a nationwide project we're implementing. And also we have the Grand Challenges funded project, which is to support the rehabilitation of those young people involved in KUSH. And that one is implemented in Freetown, and we're implementing it in 7 slum communities within Freetown. And we're providing them with skills training, providing them with yoga skills, and also music skills and other psychosocial and mental health support. Likewise, we're also working with UNFPA through the support from the government of Iceland. We are working in Kaine, we're working in Koinadugu, and we're also working in Falaba. On the accelerating progress towards the elimination of female genital mutilation in Sierra Leone. So we were mandated to recruit on-court girls, build their capacity, and also we supported adolescent girls also build their media skills capacity to lead and raise their voices on all forms of harmful practices, including FGM.
Okay. Let's take a look at the KUSH issue. Do you provide a monitoring system after all these supports that you are giving them? Do you monitor them in their various communities?
Yes, of course. For our project specific, we don't work in isolation. So in fact, we have a state project steering committee. In that community, we have a representative from the Ministry of Health, we have a representative from the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency, we also have a representative from the Sierra Leone Police, we have another pertinent institutions that we're all working in tandem and in collaboration. So we have a robust monitoring system, definitely, that we're implementing on the project.
So for the Sierra Leone community itself, what was the criteria that was used to really appoint you to be the newly elected chair, so to speak?
Well, for the national,
of your background, your hard work, or whatever.
For the National Non-Governmental Organization Steering Committee, of course, first criteria, you have to be a registered organization,
okay,
and you have to be operational, you have to be gazetted, because you don't just register with SLANGO, you also register with MOPED, and it is MOPED that regulates the affairs of NGOs in the country, and they are the ones responsible also to ensure that those registered organizations are being gazetted. And of course, you have to be doing outstanding, impactful, and visible work, which I cannot blow my own horn for ourselves, but I'm sure it is visible out there that what Global Ignite Network is doing. So the criteria was people have to nominate you.
Okay.
So I think a lot of people nominated Global Ignite Network, and together with other organizations. They had both online nominations and they had in-person nomination during the elections. So I think at the end of the day, there were 3 candidates that emerged, myself, and I don't want to mention the other 2 organizations because we're all winners. No one is a loser. So but we all two of us contested, because the 3rd person that was also nominated declined for my sake.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, we emerged as the elected organization to be the chair for the NNGO steering committee. So
let me take you back to the Global Youth Network organization. Tell us more about this organization itself. Let us know more about it.
Yeah, so Global Network, for now, I would say it's an household name. We've come a very long way. We started in the year 2012, and our predominant focus is around youth employment promotion and capacity development. So we have a nationwide scope wherein we work with other organizations. We have network organizations in all districts, and we also have regional representative and district representative. As I speak, we have 3 well-established offices. Here is our head office in Freetown. We have another office in Makini. And of course, through the EU-funded project, we now have a formidable and well-established office also in Falaba district. And that's very hard to reach, but with also the support of the EU, through Christianate, we have a 24-hour solar solar system that is making our work very easy. And also we have established and we've worked with partners over the years. We've worked with the UNDP, we've worked with the UNFPA, we've worked with the African Development Bank, we've worked with we've been working very close with the National Health Commission, with the Ministry of Youth Affairs, with AMREF Health Africa, with Grand Challenges Canada, with Christianate Sierra Leone, Christianate Ireland, the European Union, etc., etc. So we have partnered with several local and international organizations, and we've implemented impactful projects predominantly focused around youth development, youth capacity, and raising the voice of young people, provide them with job readiness skills, provide them with skills training, providing them with other needed capacity in order for them to be self-reliant, in order for them to be able to raise their voice. And we're working with a lot of local organizations as well that we are building their capacity, building their skills, and holding them for them to also be well established and formidable like us.
Okay. So far, how many NGO do we have that you're working with under this steering committee?
Yeah, so Slango has a registered database of 450 non-governmental organizations. 450 non-governmental.
And we are yet to come in.
Yes, exactly, to be formally registered. Yeah. So for the NNGO, I think we have a current database of 450. We are anticipating that number will grow because more organizations are emerging. And I think for the INGOs, the international, I think there is 150 registered. That is.
So do you have the power to monitor their activities? Do you monitor their activities?
Well, definitely we have to work in tandem with them.
Okay.
And each project, each organization has their own internal monitoring framework, capacity, etc. But definitely we will be working very close with Slango and Moped, because by right, as much as we coordinate the activities of other NGOs, then we'll definitely support them in terms of monitoring, support them in terms of capacity building, support them in terms of representation, support them in terms of resource mobilization, etc., etc. It's a lot of work, actually.
How can you describe the work of NGOs in Sierra Leone? Are they working relentlessly? Are they trying? Or though some maybe will have their own issue in terms of funding, but are they trying?
I will borrow the words of the Minister of Planning and Economic Development, and also the Development Secretary, and likewise the Director of NGO Affairs. Last month we had the NGO Week celebration, and in all of the several activities we had the parliamentary engagement, we have the NGO Week, the NGO Day celebration itself, we have the dinner, etc. I could tell you for free, the government is well appreciative of what NGOs are doing, because every NGO's activity or intervention are supposed to align with government's priority. And there are places that government cannot go. There are places that government are not represented. There are places that government cannot do it all. So the little work of each and every NGO in those hard to reach areas are being complemented by what government is supposed to be doing. So the government is well appreciative. I know, yes, of course, there are some NGOs, well, it's normal. Everybody wants to relate or give their money to people with the capacity. So it's a phase, it's a stage. Like you rightly said, when we started in 10, 15, 20 years ago, nobody wants to give you those monies. Nobody wants to work with you. Exactly, nobody wants to work with you. So it's a stage. You have to, so but there are strategies you can use. Like we started talking earlier on, you try to join coalition, try to join consortium, try to seek for collaboration, partnership, and now we are pushing the localization approach, the localization agenda, which is very key, where we want our big donors, the INGOs and the bilateral, who brings in the money to use local organizations to implement the interventions. So by the time I think we're able to get that right, and in fact, in one of the major point that came out in our discussion yesterday with the NGO Directorate is that we need to now start putting together a localization policy. So if there is a localization policy, that it makes especially the partners, the development partners, mandatory to support local organization to grow, to thrive, and to develop, and to own sustainable development.